Welcome to the Wyoming Women's Business Center's 2021 webinar series. Today's presentation is 4 questions to consider before hiring marketing help. My name is Jessica Brower. I'm the marketing director for the Wyoming Women's Business Center, and I'm going to be your speaker today. Before we get started, I want to point out the Zoom control panel, which may be at the top or the bottom of your screen. I want to call attention to both the questions and the chat function. If at any point you have any comments or questions during the webinar today, I'd like you to use those to communicate with me. This webinar is being recorded, and a link to the recording will be sent to all registrants shortly after the live event today. You can also visit our website at www.wyomingwomen.org and navigate to the training tab to view all upcoming webinars and past webinar recordings. If you're watching this webinar live, a survey will launch shortly after we close the presentation. If you could please complete that, it provides us and our funding partners with some really valuable information. And just as a reminder, all participants are muted to minimize any background noise. So once again, if you have any questions or comments during the presentation, go ahead and type those into the chat box or the questions panel. Before I get started with this afternoon's presentation, we're going to go over some quick information about the WWBC in case you aren't familiar with us already. The Wyoming Women's Business Center is a nonprofit organization. Our mission is to enable and empower Wyoming's entrepreneurs with a special emphasis on women who are economically or socially disadvantaged. We do that through 3 distinct programs. The first is our business counseling and training program, which is always free. The second is our microfinance program, which offers microloans. And third is the Artist Development Center that we run in conjunction with our Works of Wyoming store in downtown Laramie. I want to call special attention to these services available to you as a Wyoming business owner and as a client of the WWBC. If you are not a client of the WWBC already, it's very simple to become one. You can sign up by going to wyomingwomen.org or contacting us directly for more information. You'll find a contact email and phone number at the end of this presentation that you can write down if you'd like to get in touch. So with that, we're going to go ahead and dive into our presentation. So whether you've considered hiring marketing help or you haven't considered it yet, these 4 questions are really helpful to take into account while you explore maybe what your goals are in the short term or maybe in the long term, depending on where you're at in your business. So first, we're going to go over when is it time to hire help? Second, how should I hire? Third, what should I look for? And then fourth, how will we work together? We being me as a business owner and my new hire. So I'm going to go ahead and launch a quick poll. And all it's asking is pretty simple. Have you considered hiring help? Maybe you've already hired help. Yes, you know you'd like to hire help, or maybe you haven't considered it yet. I'll give you just a couple more seconds here, just so I can have an idea of what we've got in the virtual room with us today. So it looks like it's about half and half. Half of you have hired help, and the other half know you'd like to hire help, which, you know, don't we all want to hire a little help, especially after this last year? So first off, we're going to start with when is it time to hire help? So like I said, we all want help. If we could get help, we probably want it. But feasibly, sometimes that looks a little bit different. So here are some really good signs to know that it's time that you need support, that you're struggling, the business is struggling, and that you could really benefit from hired marketing help. One of those is unanswered messages. So maybe your social media messages or your email or your newsletter leads are just building up, and there's lots of unanswered questions, lots of unanswered inquiries. So with this, maybe there's missed leads. Maybe you have people calling to work with you and you're not following up with them. You have people getting in touch and you know, balls are just getting dropped. We've all been there before. Maybe you've stalled in the brand awareness or your sales. So maybe you've noticed that you haven't been making as many new connections or found any new viewers to your business, or you haven't increased your sales and you know that you're ready for that to be happening, that you're looking for that scaling to happen. Next is fatigue. And I think this is something that we're all familiar with as entrepreneurs. We're juggling a lot. And so it's important to know when you've had enough, when you're tired, you're burnt out, you know that you can't do it anymore. Perhaps your mental health is struggling, your physical health is struggling, relationships, whatever that may look like. That's important to consider just as much as the more hard data for your business. And you know when you need help. Oftentimes we get in our own way and we don't ask for the help we need. Technology and creative roadblocks are another one. So maybe you know that you need to move into more social media platforms and you just don't know how to do it, or you don't want to do it. You know, you're struggling to learn, it's really difficult for you, so you're looking for somebody with that expertise. Or additionally, maybe you're just not feeling creative. Maybe you're more of a numbers person and you want to focus on the nitty gritty of the spreadsheets and the planning and all of that, and you want somebody else to do the creative part. You know that's not your bag, and so you need some help there. An outdated web presence. So maybe when you Google your business, all of your information is incorrect or it's out of date. Maybe it has old hours or old information. Maybe your website hasn't been updated. It has the wrong staff listed, or it has photos of products that you don't even sell anymore. And lastly is last minute and unplanned content. So what I mean by this is realizing, the weekend before Mother's Day that, oh shoot, Mother's Day is next weekend. I haven't posted anything or sent out an email about the Mother's Day deals that I'd like to have in my boutique or in my store or in my restaurant. So you're scrambling to get stuff out there. You're throwing it out there last minute. You don't have a lot of time to think about it. And it's just kind of getting thrown together really down to the wire at the last minute. So any of these things, any combination of these things, or any other things that maybe you know of, are great signs that it's time to hire help. So the next question is, how should I hire help? Fortunately, there's a couple of options here. You can hire a freelancer or a contractor who will come in and work for you, who likely owns a business and does this kind of marketing work with many other businesses. This is their expertise. Or you hire an employee. So maybe this employee, it just becomes your marketing person, or maybe they fulfill a couple of roles. So let's look at some pros and cons. We'll start with a freelancer. A pro of a freelancer is it's flexible. So maybe you can hire them for a short amount of time and then hire them for more hours as you make more money, or as you know that you want to work with them more. Or maybe you just want them temporarily or seasonally. Maybe Christmas time is nuts. For that fourth quarter of the year, I need help. So you just hire a contractor for a few months, and you know that you can hire them again in the next year, but you don't have to worry about having them on payroll for the full year. Additionally, freelancing is a growing and available workforce. A large percentage of professionals are freelancers now. So regardless of where you're at, you're going to be able to find freelancers. And another thing that falls into that flexibility category is maybe you're in a small town. Many of us are. We're talking about Wyoming businesses here. And so your freelancer network isn't huge. That pool isn't huge. Well, you could get somebody from another community. You could go to a bigger city in Wyoming, or even, nationally. The way that we all do work remotely now, there's a lot of opportunities here. Like I said, it's also scalable. So maybe you hire somebody for a season, and then you know that you want to hire them more, and you can keep adding work as you have available resources and you know that it's working for you. Additionally, you're likely going to get quality work. This is a person who's an entrepreneur. Their business is doing marketing. They've worked with a variety of clients. They're paying attention to the industry. They're on top of trends. They have processes and best practices that they know how to create quality work for you, because that's what they do. Some of the cons of this: it's in high demand. So like I said, maybe there aren't a lot of people regionally or in your town that you want because they already have too much work. Maybe they're booked up. This can be a problem with freelancers sometimes. Another thing is communication breakdown. They're not an employee of you, so they might not be in your store or in your office with you, which means there's more opportunities for miscommunications or to just not be on the same page. Or perhaps they could be disruptive to employee culture. Maybe they're kind of an outsider compared to your other employees or the culture that you have in your physical business, trying to fold them in and make them feel like they're a part of the team while also honoring the fact that they're, only working a shorter amount of time and they also have other clients. That can be something that you have to manage, which is different than when you have an employee. So with that, let's talk about an employee. Some benefits of an employee are they're solely focused on your business, which means they're going to get to know what you're doing. They're going to be familiar with your staff, with your customers. They're going to be able to access a lot of information that allows them to perform their job well. So what this means that they can build strong relationships. So that's relationships with the staff, relationships with you, relationships with your customers, just relationships that are happening in the workplace that really affect what it looks like to manage a team. This means that there's more company loyalty and familiarity. If they're a full-time employee or even a part-time employee of you, then their exclusive job is to work for you. They're more likely to be loyal to paying attention to you and spending their time focused on supporting your mission because you're the only client that they're supporting. Whereas a freelancer may have 20 clients that they're doing business for. And so it's very difficult as a freelancer to be familiar with 20 different businesses the same way as you're familiar with your one and only employer. Day-to-day managing can be easier, which we've talked about, through all of these relationship building and just proximity, having them there or having them as a part of your regular staff meetings, that kind of thing can make management easy. And cross-department functionality, same thing. It's all goes back to the people within your business connecting to each other and being able to work as a team. So some of the cons of an employee compared to a freelancer, it's higher risk. So if you hire somebody and maybe you aren't pleased with them, well, you have to go through the process of them terminating them and rehiring, and that can look a little bit more it just takes more time. It takes more time than hiring and firing a freelancer. And with that, there's more investment and more time. It's going to take time to put a listing out there, to interview, to hire the appropriate candidate. It's going to take more money, likely, to hire somebody, get them into your payroll, investing in training them, getting them familiar with your business, getting them folded into your team, doing any kind of onboarding that you do within your business. So all of that is to say, there is no right or wrong answer here. You may know right off the bat, one of these is better for you. Maybe a freelancer is a better fit, or maybe an employee is a better fit. Maybe you know that you need to hire an employee to do another task and they could do marketing and that other task. And that would be a really great position to support your business. So this is going to look different person to person. These are just some ideas to consider as you're exploring what your options are. So next up is, what should I look for? Now, this is going to be true whether you're looking at a freelancer or you're looking at an employee. So maybe you're looking at resumes and you're interviewing people, or maybe you're combing through the internet, looking at marketing companies or freelancers in your community or beyond, nationally. First up is communication skill. So this is how they communicate with you just in conversation, as well as written communication, which we'll talk about here in number 2. But communication skill is so important because all marketing is communicating, whether they're talking to people on the phone, whether that's newspapers or reporters, if you're doing press releases and that kind of thing, or if they're doing live video on your social media, if they're speaking on your behalf at regional conferences or industry events, if they're writing press releases, they're writing advertising copy, they're communicating with people who are selling ads, people who are trying to get you to buy ads in the newspaper or on the radio. They're communicating with people all of the time. And so a quality communication skill is really important. And this is going to look different industry to industry. Sometimes communication needs to be really polished, and maybe there's certain jargon that's important to understand. Whereas in other times, maybe just having a really gentle, kind way of communicating is ideal. And you'll know what this looks like for your business. Similarly, next up is proficient writing skill. So not only do they need to be able to communicate effectively when they're building copy for advertising or newspaper or newsletters or radio ads, whatever they're doing, they need to be able to write well. They need to not have Facebook posts or website copy that's full of grammatical errors or spelling errors. This is really important. Fortunately, now we are also lucky to live in an era where we have a lot of tools to support us. I swear by the Grammarly app. If you're not familiar with it, it's a grammar and spelling checker that really keeps you in line when you're writing just about anything. And there's a free version, so if you haven't heard of it or you haven't used it yet, I highly suggest it. Third is they're creative and experimental. So with this, I mean that they're creating content, or they're showing examples of content that they've created that is exciting to look at. It's not boring. It doesn't look like everything you've seen. It doesn't need to be the most wild and crazy thing. However, you can tell that there's some attention to artistic detail, that things aren't messy and muddy and hard to understand. And by experimental, I mean they show a willingness to try new things. That is all marketing is a constant trying of new things. Just once you start to get a certain system down on Facebook or Instagram, there's going to be a new app or there's going to be a new feature. And so you got to try new things. So whoever comes in this role needs to be able to kind of roll with the punches and explore new things and experiment, and know that sometimes they're going to build a campaign and it's not going to work, but that's going to teach them something so they can build the next one. This is hugely important. And a great way to see this is by looking at past work. So seeing their portfolio of work, or if you're asking interview questions, just finding out how they go about brainstorming, building campaigns, and maybe even asking about campaigns that didn't work. Because the truth of the matter is every marketer has had a campaign that didn't work. No matter how hard you tried and how beautiful it was and how much work you put into it, sometimes the way the algorithms work or the time of the year is, it just doesn't work. So that's something to think about asking. Next, they're collaborative. So they're willing to work with you and your team on building content that's effective, that's highlighting the business in the best light. They can take feedback. They're not just working on an island. Nobody can tell the story of a business if they're not talking to the people in and around the business. And lastly, they're tech savvy and trend aware. Just like I said, things are always changing. There's new apps, there's new places to be, new ways to explore getting your messaging out there. So you want a person who knows that these things are changing and they're keeping an eye on it. That doesn't mean that they're always jumping on the next big thing, especially here in Wyoming. We aren't necessarily the first on top of a tech trend. However, to just know what's happening and to consciously decide, I'm not going to do that right now, is incredibly valuable. So last but not least, we're going to talk about how will we work together. So again, whether you have a freelancer or an employee, these all apply. So here are just 10 little tips to consider in working together. First off is choose the right partner. This is what we've just talked about. You have a lot of things that you can think about when you go in to hire a freelancer or hire an employee, things to look at, questions to ask, things to pay attention to. You know who the right partner for your business is. And that may look different than the right partner for your friend's business. It's so different person to person. It's based on your goals. It's based on your brand. It's based on your community. So choose the right partner for you. Second, know your brand first. So by this, I mean, you need to know what your business brand is. You need to know what it is you're trying to do. You need to know what you're hiring this person to help tell a story about. If you don't know that, you are not going to be able to effectively lead them or guide them to creating quality content. And the truth of the matter is, when it comes to creating this, marketing messaging, you could hire the best marketer in the world, but if you don't know what you're trying to do and you don't do your end of the work and provide some information, they're going to be flying blind and it's not going to be effective. So be sure that you're familiar with your brand, you know what you want, you know what you're trying to do, and then you can go to these experts to help you get there. Next, set realistic expectations early. So know what your goal is that you and your new hire can measure and check in on. Maybe that's, we want more brand awareness, we want more sales, we want more attendees to an event, we want donations to our nonprofit, we want, you know what that goal is. So set that goal together and then you can be checking on that. And you have something that allows you to measure. Fourth, make plans for communication. Maybe you do a bi-monthly meeting where you check in, you review things, you get each other the files that you need. Maybe you meet for coffee, maybe you do it on Zoom. This is going to look different business to business. If they're an employee, maybe you have a staff meeting once a week, and so they're folded into that. They give a report on what's going on, and you ask them for what you need that week. 5 and 6. 5, stay involved. So don't just walk away and expect magic to happen. This is collaborative. We've talked a lot about this, but don't helicopter. Nobody likes a micromanager, and I am not sure that anybody really likes to micromanage. Some of us have the tendencies to micromanage, but it doesn't mean that it's the thing we really want to be doing. So find a way to stay involved, to be a leader, to provide what you need to on your end, but you don't need to be there for every little detail. You don't need to comb through the fonts and the positioning of the pictures and that kind of thing. That's not going to empower anybody, and it's just likely not going to help you. It's not going to take away any of that time that you've been spending that you're trying to help yourself by hiring this person. So stay flexible. As I said, marketing is a big experiment. So sometimes you're going to create a campaign together and you're going to be excited about it and it's not going to work. Or something's going to happen. Something's going to happen in the news, or the weather's going to change, or you'll have to cancel an event, or the product that you usually sell is on back order. You're a small business owner. You know that there's a million different things that could happen. And so to tell you to stay flexible is probably a thing you've heard a lot. So this is just a reminder that when it comes to marketing, do the exact same thing. 8, listen to new ideas. So you're hiring this person because they're an expert, because they're paying attention to trends, because they're creating new ideas. Listen to those new ideas. You didn't hire them to keep doing the same thing you were doing before. You hired them to help you meet those realistic goals. And so listen to what their ideas are to meet those. Maybe it's something you haven't thought of, or maybe it's something that will spur an idea in you, and you can collaborate and brainstorm and get something really wonderful created together.
9, focus on outcomes versus details. So by this, I mean, pay attention to what those realistic expectations and goals you set together were, and what is happening. Are you making the sales? Are you spreading the word? Are you selling tickets? Are you getting more people walking in the door? Whatever that goal is, pay attention to that versus getting bogged down in the details of what a design looks like, or what word choice looks like, or if it looks like something you would make. Really micromanaging on things like the fonts or the language or anything like that can really bog you and the person that you hired down. Of course, you want to pay attention and you want to make sure that it's effective and it's not looking sloppy or anything, or it's not meeting your standards. However, really getting lost in these details can be troublesome for everybody. And then lastly, make team relationships a priority. So this person, whether they're an employee or a freelancer, is tasked with communicating about your business. And this is a big job. So you really want to make sure that one, they're familiar with the business, they know what they're doing, they know what they're saying, they have access to the resources, they're supported, but also that they feel empowered to do this with attention to detail and by creating quality messaging and a quality experience. You want them to respond to comments and to ask questions of you when they need them, and to get answers to your customers or your partners when they need it in a timely manner. And so one of the best ways to assure that they are going to have your best interest in mind and that they are going to perform well is to have a rock solid relationship, and to make sure that things are communicated well and they feel supported, and that they know that they're in good hands and that you trust them. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and open it up to some questions. We covered quite a bit this afternoon. So while you type those into the chat, I'm going to go over a little bit of information about our funding partners. The WWBC is made possible through several partnership agencies. Those primary funders are the U.S. Small Business Administration and the Wyoming Business Council. Me and the rest of the WWBC staff is incredibly thankful for the support and guidance of these partners and look forward to the work ahead. As promised, here you can see some contact information. If you're interested in receiving some one-on-one business counseling, you can contact Jonathan Howdyshell. His information is here on the left. And if you have any questions about the topics we covered this afternoon, or if you're watching the recording, then you can see my information. Again, my name is Jessica Brower. I'm the marketing director for the WWBC. That information is on the right. And be sure to visit our website at wyomingwomen.org to learn more about our services, or to fill an online intake form to become a client if you aren't one already. And if you enjoyed this webinar, we have lots of topics coming up. Remember, you can visit our website to register for these under the training tab. These are always free. You'll see on Tuesday, August 10th, we have 2 webinars. So one is with SBA, a free small business lending webinar. And next is 7 crucial tips for managers preparing for a post-COVID workplace. This month, we're talking all about managing, if you couldn't tell by the theme. Oops. I also wanted to draw attention to an upcoming business planning course. This is a facilitated Dream Builder 6-week course. It starts on September 7th, and you'll be led through weekly meetings where you get to explore building out plans for your dream business. So this is great if you have business plans that you want to make, or if you want to maybe polish your current business plan and work with one of our business counselors on this. So you can also register for this on the training page, the same place that the webinars are. When I close the webinar today, a survey is going to pop up on your screen. It's just a quick 5-question survey, and I ask that you stay online and complete it for us. We read every survey, and it helps us plan our upcoming calendar and improve our offerings. It looks like we don't have any questions, so if you do have anything that pops up, feel free to contact me at a later date. Thank you all for attending on what may have been your lunch hour. It's been a pleasure. I look forward to seeing you again soon.